In my career, I've played with over 30 professional orchestras. I played a lot with the London Philharmonic Orchestra. So yes, we bootstrapped the business actually all the way up to the end of last year. So at the end of last year, we took on our first bit of investment. Actually, it was a piece of strategic investment. My dream was to be the principal percussionist of the London Philharmonic Orchestra. That was my goal. Really, I went to music college. I started percussion relatively late, so I was about 15 when I started playing the drums.
So welcome to Brave, Bold, Brilliant. I am here today with Eddy Hackett. Now, Eddy is the co-founder and executive producer of The Lost Estate. Welcome, Eddy. How are you?
I'm very well today. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Well, listen, we are going to have such an interesting chat, Eddy, because talk about transitioning, talk about reinvention. I mean, you have absolutely nailed that, because here we are, and we're going to be talking about how you go from being a classical percussionist, a musician, to having created a £20 million business with the Lost Estate. So how did you get into that? That's quite a journey you've been on, Eddy. Talk us through it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, the honest answer to the question is really muddling through, and it's like one foot in front of the other. I have to say there was no kind of grand plan. So I wish I could be able to say I had this like laser focused vision and I pursued it day in, day out and got to there. I think oftentimes there's kind of two paths that people tend to trod on. One of them is I manifested this for myself. I had a clear vision and I just went for it. I think the other path is really about being naive and, dare I say, being a kind of dreamer, and doing often like daft, crazy, silly things that take you, as I said, like from one place to the other simply by putting one foot in front of the other. So that's the kind of like the sort of top line kind of honest answer. But how I actually did it in terms of the granular detail of it all. So yeah, my background is as a classical musician. So I went to the Royal Academy of Music and I went to the Manhattan School of Music. So I did my bachelor's in London at the Royal Academy. I did my master's in New York at the Manhattan School of Music. My dream was to be the principal percussionist of the London Philharmonic Orchestra. That was my goal. Really, I went to music college. I started percussion relatively late, so I was about 15 when I started playing the drums. Before that, I was a kind of Britpop kid, so I had played guitar in Oasis cover bands, and sang terrible songs and all the rest of it. So that was my kind of background. I played bagpipes for a while, so very eclectic, very random, but always just doing it for fun. And I got into percussion because my school wind band needed someone to smack the bass drum, and I just started playing drums, and I kind of managed to pick it up quite quickly. And I was asked to play bass drum in the wind band, and basically just loved it. And then very, very quickly, within I would say the space of about 18 months, 2 years, just got just very quickly, through being completely obsessive about percussion, just got really good at it, got to the stage where I had two options. So when I was applying for university, I was really into science and astrophysics, to be precise. So I applied to and got into a bunch of courses to do astrophysics. And then kind of just as a punt, really, I was like, I'm going to give this music thing a go. And there was three places in the UK at the time that did a foundation course, so a pre-degree course, because most classical musicians, it's a really elite industry, and a lot of people start when they're very, very young. Piano players start when they're 3 4 5 years old, so I was relatively late. There was lots of stuff that I needed to catch up in, and I didn't want to go straight to a degree course. So there were three options. One of them was the academy. I got into the academy, did this 1 year foundation course, did my bachelor's. So yeah, came out of training. I was very lucky very quickly to get some incredible opportunities. And In my career, I've played with over 30 professional orchestras. I played a lot with the London Philharmonic Orchestra. I did play principal percussion with them. Wasn't my job. I was doing it as a guest principal, but I did play principal percussion with them. I played a lot with the Royal Opera House. I was doing lots of tours, so I toured all around, America, the Far East, Russia, Europe. I did a lot of like West End. I did sessions. I played on the soundtrack to The Hobbit, for example. Recorded a lot at Abbey Road. And what I would basically say is my link into becoming an entrepreneur is that as a freelance percussionist, which is what I was, you're running your own business. So the foundations are there already. You've got this idea of in order to be really successful, like the thing you have to strive for is being exceptional at what you do. So the quality levels and being really high quality at percussion, that was like fundamentally that's the thing you have to hit. But then there's a sense that as a freelancer, your network and your relationships are the thing that you have. So it's this mixture of like your reputation and your relationships, and they come together. And I suppose I was really aware at a very early age about, just what networking looked like and reaching out to new contacts, but also being aware that the thing that you need to do is like build your network and build, I suppose, like repeat custom.
Wow. Well, you know what? I mean, huge congratulations on making that transition. But what I love about this is that it wasn't a straight line, because I think so often you're right, you alluded to it, we have a plan, we have a vision, and we kind of manifest it, and we take loads of action, and we're laser like focused on the end result. Whereas actually, life and business and careers are often a little bit squiggly, shall we say, a little bit twists and turns along the way, and opportunities can actually come up when you don't necessarily expect them to. But the key is to decide, isn't it? Is this something that I want to throw myself into and give it a go, or actually do I just pass and let it go by? And I think the sign of a great entrepreneur, which you are, as well as being an amazing musician, of course, is entrepreneurs spot opportunities, they take risk, they're prepared to do what maybe 90% of people are not prepared to do in order to to build a business, etc. And I think a lot of your journey incorporates those elements as well, from what you've just described. So, Eddy, obviously exciting plans ahead, and I think that sensible rollout and growth that you've just described there is absolutely spot on. And hey, if things actually go better than you anticipate, you can always speed up as you see the opportunities come. So I think that's really important. Now, as a business owner and founder, you pretty much bootstrap the business in order to get yourself going. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that. What do you think that made you do differently versus maybe a startup that might have gone for quite significant investment and external capital to help them grow? How has the bootstrapping aspect made you set the business up differently, and what has it helped you with, do you think, as business leaders?
Yeah, great. So yes, we bootstrapped the business actually all the way up to the end of last year. So at the end of last year, we took on our first bit of investment. Actually, it was a piece of strategic investment. Uh, our non-executive director is a guy called Mark Fisher, who was the co-founder of Merlin Entertainments. Who are the guys that own the London Eye, and yes, you probably know them well. So he's our non-exec. So he came on board as a minority investor, as did Nick McKenzie, who's the CEO of Green.
Oh, I know Nick.
Which is
I know
fantastic.
Nick. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So Nick and Fish came into the business as minority investors. So sub 10%, and it was as much a strategic investment, for them as people, as obviously it was for the capital. And I would say that bootstrapping has its pros and cons. The massive pro, obviously, is the flexibility and the kind of agility that you can have as a business, where you as the founders are like the single kind of gatekeepers and decision makers of the business. It also, you really have to approach the business in an incredibly lean and resourceful way. And I do think in our business, as creators, creativity, I think, is this combination of being incredibly resourceful. So, doing amazing things with the limited resources that you have, but also you're very kind of aware of your needs and your resources. So when we were growing the business, we had to simply restrict at all costs, things like headcount and posh fancy offices and all. I mean, for a long time we were just working on trestle tables. For a long, our office for the first probably 3 or 4 years of the business was a table at Le Pan Quotidien in London Bridge. And we went to Le Pan Quotidien in London Bridge because it was like the local station to all of us, and they never used to take your order. And there was a plug point there, so we could plug in our laptops. They left us alone for the whole day. We could get lunch. So it is really fantastic from that perspective. What I would say, and this is one of my great pieces of advice for founders now, is that the the business now, as we expand, we really realize that we need to properly capitalize the business. And I'm in the process of looking for other investors into the business to help us on this growth journey. And I suppose I would definitely say that you should start that capital raising journey well before you ever need to do it.
Yeah.
And also that often the best time to capitalize your business properly is the time when you least need the money.
Yeah.
Because you want to be seeking capital when the business is at its most strong. And if you're able to present a business that's like bootstrapped and profitable and all the rest of it, it's the right time to do that. So we're looking at raising investment into the business, and we do realize that in order to both give ourselves headroom, considering these really exceptionally difficult market conditions that we're trading in, but also just because it's an unpredictable world. As you said, the growth journey. I can't remember the word that you.
Squiggly. Squiggly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. And I would definitely say a big piece of advice is just carefully consider the right moment to start capitalizing your business, and often it's well before you actually need the money.
Yeah. I mean, I work with a lot of founders. I actually do a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and have done in my corporate life as well. And I agree. It's almost start with the end in mind and work backwards, but give yourself enough time so that you're not rushing it. And like
Yeah.
you say, because it's like it's a negotiation at the end of the day, because you'll be giving something away in terms of equity normally. And I think sometimes if you're desperate for the cash, you end up giving away too much equity too soon, and that can be a danger as well. So, but it's great that you've got Mark Fisher and Nick McKenzie with you, because both big hitters, credible, bring the brand, bring the experience, and I think that's another lesson for founders that are looking to raise capital. Don't just think about the money. Think about who you're getting in bed with, and actually what skills, what can they bring, what can they bring their network, what is it that actually people bring more than just cash? Because cash is one thing, but actually it's often those other elements that's really where the value and the gold sits. So I think that's it. Yeah.
And actually, I would just add one other thing onto that as well, which is that yes, the strategic side to the investor is really, really important. The other side is what I would call the emotional side to the investor. With Nick and Fish, I feel that they are emotional investors, and we're looking for emotional investors. And what I mean by that is those are people who just love the business. They believe in the business. They believe in us as founders. So yes, it's about the skills and the network and the experience that the investors themselves can bring, but it's also like their emotional connection to you and the business, and all of that has to be this kind of, in an ideal world, this perfect symmetry of like capital and strategy and emotion, and it comes together in this wonderful package. And I would say that Nick and Fish, in our instance, like we're blessed to be working with them. They're absolutely the perfect fit.
Yeah, no, fantastic, and that's right. And it's like building a team. It's the culture, who you hire. But especially when you've got you've got a shareholders agreement that binds you together. You want to make sure that you're going to get along. You don't have to agree on everything, but you want to get along and enjoy being in business together and on all the highs and the lows, especially when the times are tough, because that can really stretch people's kind of personality profiles sometimes when under pressure. So that's great. We should get Mark and Nick on the podcast. Actually, I should do that.
Yeah, they would love it. I'm sure if you ever wanted to, they would love to come on. And they're also they've both individually and together, because they've worked together at Merlin for quite a long time. They've just got this all the amazing war stories, but just an incredible wealth of experience.
Yeah, we should make that happen. Let's do that, Eddie. That'd be amazing. Yeah, because the more as I say, Brave Bold Brilliant is all about sharing real life business journeys, business stories, but not just that, actually human stories, and the highs and the lows. And it is always amazing to get a perspective from larger organizations, smaller, mid-size entrepreneurs, because at the end of the day, business isn't easy, but life is important. We've got to enjoy the ride along the way. And I think sometimes we can get too wrapped up in, what's not really important. So to keep it real is great, I think. So yeah, we'll definitely make that happen. So as we're talking about money, I've got one more question before we're going to come towards the close. So if someone gave you £1 million, Eddie, today, and you might need more than that. So, I know, I don't know what your number is, but you might need more than that. But if someone gave you £1 million today to start again, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I would say the one big thing that I think we would do differently at the business, I think, is about brand. So what I think are I guess, like, what we're starting to feel now is, in this climate where you've got challenging economic conditions, challenging kind of geopolitical environments that the people are living within. I mentioned previously the idea of a discretionary purchase on a special occasion, something that people have kind of been trained to cut back on. What that basically means is people are going out fewer times, but they're spending more when they go out. And I believe that the natural kind of logical conclusion to that is you're going to spend that hard-earned cash on something that you know and trust and believe in. And at the heart of that, I think, is brand, the brand promise, the brand equity, the brand values. And what we've done at the Lost Estate is, over the years, we've just, I say just, but the strategy was always to market the child brand. We were doing shorter runs we were a smaller business, particularly in the first 2/3 of our life. We never needed to talk about the Lost Estate. We just needed to talk about the product that was right there, and it was having a limited run and was available right now with highly limited stock. Where I think we're at now is that people believe in brands, and they believe in the brand story and what the kind of identity of the brand means to them. I think people, you see this a lot with like health and fitness brands, that people's identity gets caught up like in the brand. I mean, Gymshark is like a perfect example of that, right? Gymshark is a lifestyle to many people as much as it is like a piece of clothing that they wear. So the big thing that I would do differently is something that we're now focused really heavily on in 2026, and you'll start to see a lot of this over the second half of 2026, is bringing to life the top brands. So bringing to life the Lost Estate. And the Lost Estate being this incredible place that builds these extraordinary worlds made of art, filled with hospitality and incredible design and cosplay and all the rest of it. And it's a place that people can go to celebrate the key special occasions in their life in this extraordinary, artistic, humane, interesting way. So if I had to do anything differently over the course of the Lost Estates journey, it would be like building that brand and telling that story from day one.
Yeah, and you're right. I think people, it's like people do business with those they know, like, and trust, and people buy from brands that they know, like, and trust, and they've got an affinity and an emotional connection. And I think you've got a great opportunity, because what you do is very human to human. And I think that's becoming, ironically, the new currency in the world of digital and tech, which is a bizarre thing to say, but I see it.
Yeah, the interesting point on that, because you kind of hit the nail on the head there, is that we're going to be in a place towards the end of 2026 where AI will be able to replicate UGC. So like whereas previously UGC and UGC content was exactly the thing that kind of separated digital artificial from like real human, that's going to be indistinguishable towards the end of this year. So I spoke previously in our conversation about like being a creator-led brand. So the idea of like, what is the thing that only you can do? That is going to be your currency in your brand in the future. So what I would be, encouraging your listeners to consider is when you're building your brand, like what is the thing that's completely authentic and quintessentially you? What is the thing that only you can do? What is that story? What is that approach? What is that product? What is, whatever it is, that's the thing you need to lean into and focus on. And all of the content that you create needs to be based on like, what is this amazing thing that essentially, because it's the thing that only you can do, allows you to build a unique fan base that is, completely bespoke to you, which sure you can then start to leverage and start to monetize. But fundamentally, you have to build this connection between you and your audience based on this incredible, unique thing.
Yeah, great advice that is, Eddie. And yeah, I totally agree with you. So exciting year ahead, exciting journey. And you talked about the advice that you've shared, and you've done absolutely a phenomenal job in this conversation, Eddie, in terms of sharing your journey, but also through that jam-packed full of advice for others that may be also, going through similar scale-up scenarios. So when you look back through your career, and it could be as a percussionist and a musician, it could be in the business world or personally, can you think of the best piece of advice that you've received?
Yeah, so there's probably people in at work who are fed up of me talking about this, but the single piece of advice that I talk about to people across the years is my teacher when I was at the Manhattan School of Music. He's an amazing percussionist called Chris Lamb. He's the principal percussionist of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. Widely regarded as like one of the greatest percussionists of all time. And he had these two unbelievably kind of obscure bits of advice that he just repeated all the time, and were things that he said it would take you years to understand what they mean, but when you understand what they mean, you'll totally get it. So he used to say, Eddie, you got to be a racehorse. And he used to say, Eddie, you have to pass through the details. So those two bits of advice at the time, it often perplexed me. He used to say, Eddie, you gotta have that racehorse mentality. And like, I'd be playing something, I'd be getting bogged down in what I'm doing. He said, Eddie, you just need to pass through the details.
If you were to describe this year in one word, what would it be and why?
Challenging. Yeah. For the reasons that I've previously mentioned, we're in uncertain times where for consumer businesses, there's a huge wave of headwinds that are against us, just through, the setup of everything from national insurance, minimum wage rises, business rates, all of the kind of fundamental building blocks that the businesses require to be in a great place. But also coupled with, the leisure hospitality sector is in a really challenging environment. So I would say challenging. The caveat is, I would say that I still do believe in the idea of human connection being absolutely essential and critical to people's lives, and even more so as we go forward in this kind of like new dawn of like AI and AGI imminently coming world that we live in. People are they need experiences and places and people that connect them to the human experience. So I have hope and optimism that in amongst these very challenging market conditions, people making that kind of work will be successful.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right. Sometimes when the chips are down, actually it ends up being the time when we grow the most and we become more relevant. And so I think it's going to be,
Growth
you just
through
got to,
challenge. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
grow through challenge. Yes, exactly. So what do they say? Grow through it. Don't just go through it, grow
Yeah.
through it. Something like that. Excellent. So it's going to be an interesting road ahead, but an exciting one. And there'll be twists and turns, Eddie, for sure. And you're a musician. So music, energy, bringing all of that to everything you do every single day is absolutely critical. And we are looking to have a fabulous playlist on Spotify with all our wonderful guests. We always ask them, what's a favorite song and artist that we can add to our playlist? So what would yours be, Eddie?
So mine would be Fast Car by Tracy Chapman.
Yes. What a classic. And we've not had that.
It's an
So there we
amazing
are.
song. I think it's not only it's an incredible song, um, it's got incredible story behind it as well. And Tracy Chapman, like her rise to fame was also very, there's many layers to that song being really incredible. If you haven't already checked it out, there's an incredible podcast called Soul Music on BBC, and there's a really amazing episode on Fast Car Tracy Chapman, which is very inspiring to listen to.
Excellent. We'll add that in as well. So, and before Addy, I'm going to ask you a last question. But where can people find you? Where can they kind of check you out personally? But also, if they want to get involved in Lost Estate, maybe as an investor, or they want to actually get tickets and enjoy an experience with you, how can people find you?
Yes, cool. So the Lost Estate, the best place to go is thelostestate.com. That's our new central website where all of the shows will cascade from. And then in terms of finding me, I'm relatively active on LinkedIn. So Eddy Hackett, Eddy with a Y, Hackett with two T's. Find me on there. I always love to connect with new people and have really interesting conversations. So yeah, come and hit me up.
Excellent. That's great, Eddie. So, last question. What does brave, bold, brilliant mean to you?
Yeah, I think Brave, Bold, Brilliant to me is about creating work that's both authentic to yourself, but also is about creating work that kind of contributes to connection and humanity and creativity and bringing people together ultimately. I really believe in this idea of like business having purpose. And sometimes businesses, that purpose can be philanthropic, it can be purely commercial. I feel like the best businesses are businesses that kind of intersect all of that. Wonderful commercial businesses that provide, they contribute to economies, that provide jobs, that contribute to the taxes and, the really important like finance structures that underpin our country. The businesses that support people's growth, professionally. They're businesses that may have an element of like philanthropy to that, whether that's like in a commercial sense, whether that's giving time or resources to people, and then ultimately businesses that contribute to what it means to be human and live a human experience, as I said, in a ever more digital world, creating connections between people, allowing opportunities for people to express themselves, both consumers, performers, allowing people to feel like the stories that are being told are stories that connect and resonate with them and help them to understand themselves better and understand the world more. So yeah, all of that, I think it means to me businesses that kind of intersect all of those in a very kind of elegant, authentic way.
Fantastic. What a great way to end, Eddie. I've really loved our conversation. I'm so excited for everything you've achieved already, but everything that's to come with the Lost Estate.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, can't wait. Let's keep in touch and let's just, go for it. Make this year amazing.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm humbled and really delighted to have shared the Lost Estate story, live my own story, and obviously just like wishing all the best to all your listeners, any founders out there who might be early stage, late stage. It's wild, wonderful, exhilarating ride, it can often feel lonely at times, and that's what's incredible about podcasts like this: is you build a community, you connect people together, and the more brilliant entrepreneurs we have in our society, the better a society it is. So it's a really amazing thing that you're doing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Eddie. Perfectly said. What a fabulous episode with the wonderful Eddy Hackett. And what really struck me from chatting with Eddie was how he has gone from being a classical percussionist to actually being a co-founder of the Lost Estate. So what a journey that has been for Eddie, to really shift from being an incredible musician into business, being an entrepreneur. But actually, what really struck me as well was how they've actually created a very unique proposition in the market. We're talking about a whole theatre experience, which is so, so different. And actually, that whole immersive experience, when you walk into a production at the Lost Estate, you feel like you're being taken back into the world of where that play is being staged. So it's a fully, fully immersive experience. And no one else is doing that in the market, really. And they started that business, the co-founders of which Eddie is one, started the business, with zero, and they bootstrapped it themselves in order to grow it. And it's now turning over £20 million in revenue. That is phenomenal from a standing start of zero. And actually to build something new and unique, it takes guts. It takes resilience. It takes having a big vision, and it takes patience. But these are the qualities of being brave to make the move in the first place, being bold to create the impact. And of course, the brilliance is the experience that, people that go and enjoy the show really feel. And of course, throughout all of that, Eddie's leadership journey has also been an interesting one, how he's developed as a person. So if you enjoyed the episode with Eddie, please do, share it with your friends, share it with colleagues, with fellow business people that can really learn something about how to actually shift from being, an expert in one field to becoming a business founder that not only creates a unique experience in the market, but actually does it in a way that creates sustainable growth and profitability. So hit that subscribe button. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, again, please hit the subscribe button. Feel free to leave us a review as well. That always really helps, because here at Brave, Bold, Brilliant, we are building a community of incredible business leaders. We're here to support each other on our growth journey. And remember, whatever you're doing, it is only by being brave and bold that you will unlock your brilliance.